We are going to talk about how to avoid echo in Teams meetings. And Eric, I don't know if you were on yet. I know you were going to help me try and demonstrate getting an echo and then getting rid of it by using a headset mic. But Warren already showed us the echo when he joined. And then just by muting himself, we got rid of the echo. So we'll see if we can recreate it with you later too. But we're going to get started. I just want to go through a couple of slides quick to show you kind of a summary of what we're talking about here. So we're going to talk about 3 potential solutions for echo. And basically the problem is happening because you're getting 2 audio feeds transmitted from one person speaking. Now there can be several different scenarios involved, but normally it's going to be when a second person is unmuted or more than one person is unmuted, right? You've got 2 pieces of audio involved, right? You have your incoming audio that you're listening to, and then if you're also speaking, you've got outgoing audio. You might be doing that outgoing audio on a laptop or on a computer using the built-in mic. That's what I'm doing right now, the built-in mic on my Red Cross laptop. You might be using the built-in speakers on your laptop or your computer, or you might have external speakers. Either way, doesn't matter. You're going to get the same effect. Other options, well, when you do have this, you're going to, if you're speaking, the computer's built-in mic is going to pick up your voice, and then it's going to also pick up your voice coming through the speakers and getting picked up again by the microphone. That's one way that the echo can happen. The same thing will be true if you're using an external mic. Your voice goes into the mic. The speaker sound also gets picked up by the mic. Those are pretty much all the same. Again, outgoing audio from the microphone, incoming audio that you're hearing. There are 2 ways to deal with that. One is to either reduce or get rid of the incoming audio through the speakers, right? The problem is when you start reducing it so low, then you may not be able to hear what the person's asking you in the discussion, right? Another way to deal with it is to reduce the gain from the microphone, and Bob's going to talk to us about that option. If you shut off the audio completely through the speakers, either built-in mic speakers or external speakers, then you've got to have another way to hear the audio, right? Because otherwise you're not going to hear what's happening in the meeting. And the way to do that is either with earbuds or with a headset that has both the incoming audio and the microphone for the outgoing audio. And then there's yet another option that Dan's going to talk about, which is if you're logging into the meeting with 2 devices. You might be on a computer and using your smartphone. So that's kind of what we're going to go through. And then we have a number of ways to explain how to deal with that. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Bob go ahead. So Bob, you can take it away and talk about how to reduce the gain on a microphone.
Okay, so I use Teams and Google Voice when I'm doing that duty officer work, because when you've got a trainee, it's nice for them to be able to hear both sides of the conversation. And so I had been plagued with this echo in Teams for a long time, and then when Susan mentioned that she was going to talk about it, I thought, well, I'll try it one more time, see if I can figure out how to make this go away. And I stumbled upon this method, which there's good news and bad news to, and I'll save that for later. So right now, you probably don't hear an echo if Susan says something. So Susan, say something, and people will probably say, oh.
Okay. I'm not hearing an echo. Are you hearing it?
I don't hear an echo. Okay. So the reason why...
But I have earbuds in, so...
Doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
So the reason why you're not hearing it is because if I went into Control Panel Sound, and now this is all Windows specific. If you've got a Mac, I have no idea what you would do. You go to your recording devices. In this case, I'm using this microphone on my webcam. Speak to you. You go to that, click the properties, go to levels, and you can see that my level is set to 70. And I'm going to bump my level. By default, it's probably going to be 100 on most people's computer. If I bump it up now Susan, say something.
Okay. Yeah, now I heard the echo.
And I would imagine that everyone hears the echo. And if I bump this back down to 70.
Yep, and now the echo goes away.
The echo goes away. Now, let me explain to you why that happens.
Can you explain first exactly what the equipment you're using? Are you using a headset and your laptop, or just the laptop?
I have a desktop with 2 monitors and a Logitech webcam with a microphone built into it.
So you have 2 microphones then. You've got a microphone on your webcam and a microphone on your laptop. Is that correct?
I'm not using
but he's only using one of them.
I'm on a desktop, and the only microphone in play right now is on the webcam.
You're sure you have the microphone on the desktop turned off?
And there is no microphone on the desktop.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Yeah, most desktops I don't think have built-in microphones. At least older ones don't. So.
Well, let's
and you're not using a headset or earbuds, right, Bob?
I have a headset that I can use, but I'm not using it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so if anyone would like to have a background for their teams that says Disaster Services Technology, I have one, and I'll give it to Susan. But here's my wonderful diagram to explain why what I did makes that echo go away. Here's Susan up here. She says DST, sound waves go over here, hit her microphone, goes through software processing in Teams on her device, goes out across the internet, through the cloud, through routers, hits Teams server somewhere up in the cloud, goes through more routers, comes down to Teams on my computer, and here's my external speaker that DST comes out of. Well, my external speaker has a nice clear path to my external microphone, and so when she says DST, my microphone picks it up, and DST starts going back up through the whole chain, comes out her speaker. Now the trick is it's delayed and it's reduced. And so when she says DST, a slight time later, she will hear a more dim version of DST, which her brain says is an echo. Now why does changing the level here make that echo go away? Somewhere in Teams, probably in the server version that's sitting here in the middle, they have echo suppression software running. If the echo that's picked up like this is of a sufficiently low volume, the echo suppression software does a wonderful job of making it go away. If the feedback circuit is of a sufficiently high volume, the echo suppression software says, I don't think that's an echo, I think it's real, I'll pass it on through. When I go from a level of 100 on my mic to a level of 70, that reduces the level of the DST phrase sufficiently that the echo suppression somewhere in this chain, I'm just guessing is at the server, causes the echo to not be generated, the secondary echo not to be generated at Susan's end, nor at any other person who's listening. It doesn't matter whether she uses a headset or earbuds or external speaker and mic, because the problem is at my end with this external speaker and external mic. So the good news is reducing the level here made the echo go away, at least for me. The odd thing is When I go from a level of 100 to 70, Susan doesn't appear to hear a difference in my spoken voice, and I don't understand that. I think there's magic happening somewhere, probably some automatic gain control happening at some place. So the good news is this works. The bad news is it probably won't work for you. And let me explain why. Getting back to this level on the microphone, I've set mine down to 70. If Teams were connecting directly to my microphone, which is what this diagram shows, as soon as I join a meeting, start a meeting, Teams looks down at this source of voice and says, that's a real microphone, and I can tweak the level of it, so I'm going to automatically grab the level and move it wherever I want it to be, which typically is up here around 100, which defeats the purpose of moving it down to 70. And when I was demonstrating this technique with Susan a week ago, and we were trying this on another Red Cross laptop, we saw this very effect. And as soon as we did it, microphone level started changing automatically, and that destroys the goodness of my fix. Now, there is a fix to that. Let me show you. The reason it works on my case is because I have a software mixer in the chain right here, so that when Teams looks back down at the device that's sending sound to it, it doesn't see a microphone that it can tweak the level of. It sees a mixer, and Teams says, I don't think I know how to tweak the level of that thing, so I'll leave it alone. So that's why my level stays at 70, because Teams can't get their automatic gain control hands on my level. So if you want to use this technique, you have to install something to sit between Teams and the level. A mixer is what I have used. There's a free one that I'm using. I'll show you from a company called VB Audio. The mixer is called a voice meter. Basically, the microphone input comes in this hardware input, goes out to Teams through this virtual output, and so that's all you need to do. And that will make Teams quit messing with your level automatically.
Hey, Bob, we need to wrap this up so that we can give Dan a little bit of time to talk about his part. So can you, once we get done, can you share the software in a chat so that people know what to look for?
Sure.
And somebody asked too whether you'd be willing to share your drawing.
Sure, I'll send everything to you.
Okay.
You can put it wherever you like.
Yeah, I'll post it in the files in the team, but then I'll also post it in Volunteer Connection.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you. That was really helpful. And your drawing was great. All right. You're getting appreciation in the chat too. So just to sum up then, if you want to do that on your own computer, you'll be able to install that third-party help there. Obviously, if you're working on a Red Cross computer, you aren't going to have that option. So then that solution's not going to work for you. So just quickly before I hand it over to Dan, the other option then, if you can't reduce the gain, then you're going to have to go with the option that I had talked about in my handout, which was to turn off the speakers and use a headset or earbuds so that that microphone isn't picking up the output from your speakers. Yeah, we can get to that question later. I'm concerned I don't want to go too much over time, and I know Dan wants to talk about how an echo happens if you're logged into the meeting with two devices. So Dan, take it away.
Okay, echo cancellation, that's built in. We were just talking about that. And yeah, it can get messed up sometimes, but one of the main ways it's really going to get messed up is if there's two sources. If there's two microphones involved, or there's two speakers involved, and that doesn't, and I'm not talking about stereo speakers. If you have microphone on your cell phone active and the microphone on your laptop active, then you're most likely going to get feedback because you're going to have different timings between the two. And same way with speakers. If I've got a microphone on my laptop active and the speaker on the laptop and the speaker on my cell phone, the difference between those two are going to just cause all sorts of problems. So let me unmute my speaker here, and that's causing all sorts of problems. I can hear the echo. So I just turned the speaker off on, the microphone.
Yeah, that causes big time echo.
Yeah. So I've got.
So what's the best way to solve that?
Is to mute your speaker and your microphone on your cell phone and just use your video if you need that on your cell phone. That's
okay.
In some way.
And I've heard a couple different reasons why people like to do that. I've had people tell me that, well, I use my phone for chat. And I'm like, well, you can get the chat screen up on your computer, or you have some people who make the mistake of trying to sit in 2 meetings at once, so they're logged into a second meeting, and then they'll accidentally switch back and forth, and it just makes a mess of things. And a lot of times they don't even realize what's going on. And you try and tell them, well, mute your phone, and they're like, what do you mean mute my phone?
Yeah. And frequently the person that's causing the echo, they don't realize there's an echo. They're not hearing the echo. Everybody else is hearing the echo. So,
yes, I find that's true with most of the echo causes, that the person causing it doesn't hear it, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it harder to solve.
Speakers or 2 speakers or 2 microphones. I'm not sure which exactly. That's what's going on.
Well, it seems to me like it could be a combination of either, that you might have maybe you have the microphone muted on your phone, but if you still have the audio coming through the phone, that audio could get picked up by the microphone on your laptop, right?
Yes. There's multiple scenarios there, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if you mute the phone completely, both the mic and the audio output, you could still get the echo from the laptop from the other scenario that we're talking about, right? So just muting your phone isn't necessarily going to solve it.
I think that's typically not the problem on a modern laptop. If you've got a headphone on your laptop and your speaker is not muted on your laptop, if you've got the headphone microphone is active and the laptop microphone are active, that might be another scenario.
Yeah, I guess you do have to check that to make sure that when you plug in an external mic, headset mic, that your other mic is not active. I think usually that would not be the case, but I do find that the audio doesn't necessarily shut off the speakers when you plug in a headset or earbuds. So you do have to check that on your computer. Depending on your audio program, it may or may not shut that off automatically.
Another thing is if you're using an add-on camera, sometimes they have microphones in them.
Yes.
So that's another source that you need to check.
Yep. Yeah. Now, and I noticed you said as long as you have a headset on, it won't cause the echo, and that's true, because that going back to when, I forget his name now, Warren, I think, right? When he joined and he did not have a headset on, we were hearing an echo, right? So even if he had a smartphone logged in as well and he had that muted, having the external speakers working on the laptop can still cause the echo. And that's what we were going to ask Eric Lorenz to demonstrate. So anything else you wanted to add there, Dan, or should we turn it over to Eric?
I'm fine, but maybe we want to, if we have time, see if Warren still has an echo and if we can fix it.
There you go. Yeah. Are you still on, Warren? if you are and you have earbuds or a headset, you might want to grab them, and then Dan will help you with that in a second. All right, Eric, shall we give this a try and see if we can recreate the problem we had a few weeks ago?
Well, we can, but, you know, like to illustrate right now, I'm using the webcam with microphone that's plugged into my, I'm using a laptop as a desktop. So I'm using a webcam and an external microphone right now, and I'm guessing you're probably not hearing any echo or feedback?
No, not hearing an echo.
So I can illustrate the difference between what this sounds like versus what I sound like with a headset on, if that would be instructive at all.
Sure. Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. So right now what I'm using, and quite admittedly, this is an old unit. It's a Logitech, what is it called? It's Quick Cam for Notebooks Pro. It goes back to the days of Windows XP. But the drivers still work on it, and it's the only thing I had around when COVID started that I had to plug in using a dual monitor setup on my laptop to provide me with a webcam. So
so it's an external webcam, not the one that's built into the computer.
Correct, because I'm not.
And it includes a microphone
with my laptop, so I'm not using my laptop screen as one of my monitors.
Okay.
So
and the Logitech webcam has a microphone built into it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So what I'm doing now is I'm still going to use a camera, but what I'm going to do, and I'll turn the camera on just for the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm using an older Logitech headset, this actually, you can use it two ways. You can either use, it has discrete mini jacks for microphone and the headset, or you can plug it into this adapter, which converts it into a USB. So I'm going to plug this in. Okay. Can you hear me now, Susan?
I can.
Okay. So it automatically...
Definitely a little different sound. So
yeah, it automatically switched over. So I'm using now the webcam for the video and the headset for the audio.
For the audio, right. And you know, the main difference that I hear is that the audio is crisper because the mic is closer to your mouth now compared to when it's sitting on top of the monitor, right?
Correct, correct. Sometimes if I'm, depending on what I'm doing, I just like being able to not, worry about having to have a headset on.
Right.
I greatly prefer using just a regular webcam. And again, it goes back to the echo suppression. It would have been a bigger issue, I think, had it been an issue. When they started putting webcams and microphones into laptops, they obviously had to develop, software and hardware processes to avoid those issues. So, most, decent laptop. In fact, I don't ever know that I've used a laptop with a built-in webcam that where I've had audio issues, and I discover usually goes back to our first couple scenarios where somebody is using multiple devices on for whatever reason.
Right. Well, and I think the other piece too that Bob mentioned is I think part of that echo suppression is coming from Teams as well. Yes. Because Teams was one of the latest streaming softwares that was developed. I think they were aware of how much the echo can be a problem, and they built a solution into it. So I don't know too much about how that works, but that would be my guess.
Well, and let's not forget the biggest piece is another piece we can factor in when we're talking about how we use our computers for meetings and stuff like this is privacy. Obviously, if you're in a room full of other people, they may not want to hear the meeting you're on, and you may not want them to hear the meeting that you're on. So that's a whole nother discussion about when it's appropriate to use a external webcam and mic and when it's appropriate to use a headset of some kind.
Yes, that's a good point. When I used to work in the office over at the Chicago chapter, I would always wear a headset when I was on a call or a meeting. Yeah.
And the only other thing I can say is, and you know, everybody's heard this, but it always happens, is, you know, and I think a lot of us here know it and are, you know, intelligent enough to remember it, but obviously, you know, when you're in a meeting, listen to your presenter. You know, sometimes, like, for example, here in the Illinois region, we have our monthly CEO updates with Selena, and she'll invite everybody to have their cameras on and, you know, unmute your microphone when you're speaking. But a lot of times the standard thing will be, please, you know, turn off your camera, mute your mic until and if you need to speak. And there's always one guy or one girl who doesn't listen, and you know.
Yep. And that's you know, we're dealing with that every month for the all hands calls too for DST. Let me show you just a couple slides to summarize here, and then I know we used up all the time, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm certainly willing to stay and answer questions, and we'll see if Bob and Dan and Eric are as well. But just to summarize here, let me show you. So we talked about 3 solutions. One is reducing the gain on the microphone, right, which you may not be able to do if it's on a Red Cross computer. One is turning off the speakers and using a headset or earbuds instead. And one is, if you're logged in on more than one device, making sure the audio and maybe the audio and the mic, it depends on how you're using it, to make sure that that's muted so you're not getting duplicate audio or duplicate microphone. And just a microphone tip, you want to make sure that you test ahead of time. So make sure that if you're going to be speaking, that you're speaking loud enough, that you're close enough to the microphone, and that people can hear you clearly, right? So be sure to test that out. And don't put your microphone too close to your mouth, because then you can get some distortion as well. And if you're using a headset mic, the guideline I've always heard is to line it up along your jawbone rather than right in front of your mouth, because you can get some popping and crackling. All right, and then looking ahead to next month, let me know if you'd like to help plan. Next month we're going to look at cameras rather than microphones and audio. So what do you need to do to look good on a Teams meeting if you are invited to have your camera on? Questions, if anybody has any, if everybody hasn't left already.
Susan, I was going to offer one other quick kind of secondary tip.
Sure.
Here's, and this kind of goes along just kind of knowing your system and, you know, things to think about. Don't be tempted to 5 minutes before you're going into a meeting to answer that thing that pops up on your screen saying that, you know, you need to update such and such a software, or you decide that, hey, I'm going to try this different configuration for my webcam and all this stuff. Don't do that 5 minutes before you go into a meeting.
Right. Especially if you have to be presenting on the meeting. Yeah, if you're just listening, then you can keep your camera off and it shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, if you're going to be called on to speak, you want to make sure you're ready ahead of time. Good point. Dan, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think we summarized everything pretty well.
Yeah.
It's called signal to noise ratio. That's the technical thing about the sound quality.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not a sound expert, so I did not know that. I'm scrolling down here to see if anybody has their hand up. Somebody trying to ask a question?
Yeah, I just want to comment. I am somewhat of an audio professional.
Okay.
It directly relates to feedback. If your mic is lined up with your speakers, you're going to get feedback, or you're going to get echo. You're going to get something like that. So that your best practice is always going to be a headset, because your your ears are the only thing hearing the audio. So that's why the headset is so perfect for the application.
Yeah,
if you've got
then the mic doesn't pick it up.
If your webcam and your separate computer speakers are in like line of sight, you're always going to have potential. The higher your gain goes for feedback and echo. And worse than the echo is the feedback. We've all heard the feedback.
Yes. And Nigel, is that partly when they're like on a laptop, the mic and the speakers are closer together than they might be if you've got external speakers and they're sitting farther away? Does that make it worse?
I think his diagram showed it pretty good, because I mean, it's not so much about my sometimes it's not so much about my speakers hearing my microphone hearing my speakers, but it's also throwing in that it's hearing your microphone and your speakers if your speakers are up too loud as well. So
yes,
like you said, it gets complicated, and that's why sometimes you don't know you're doing it, and sometimes others don't know they're doing it, because
yep.
Yeah, it creates a loop, and then sometimes you get that secondary loop or additional loops depending on how many mics. So that's if everybody stays on mute, that's the key.
Right. Or puts a headset on.
Yeah, like I said, if everybody had a headset, you would basically eliminate the problem completely.
Right. And I know, Red Cross is not shipping headsets with the laptop. So if you're deployed and you don't have your own earbuds or headset to use, then you may just need to stay muted on a call, right? So that's the other option. But if you have earbuds that you can take with you when you're deployed, it'd be a good idea to pack them.
And speakerphone on a phone is probably also a bad idea if you're calling in, because your mic is definitely hearing your speakerphone.
Yep.
So if you're speaking on a call and you've got it on speakerphone, you need to take it off a speakerphone when you're unmuted.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
But then echo cancellation is pretty good on things. So, it's not always the case, but hey, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right?
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah. If you've got, the echo, like he said earlier, the echo suppression can only do so much. Like if it's really bad, you're going to have the best echo suppression in the world, and it's still going to have some struggles. And it's also, if the echo suppression is really having a struggle, it's probably slowing down your bandwidth as well. So
that's
just a couple of thoughts.
And
bandwidth is an issue too.
Thanks, Nigel. I hadn't thought about that part. And let me just bring this back to really. We're talking about this in terms of how your own sound is going to be when you participate in a meeting. But the other really important part here is, I don't know how many of you were on the all hands call a few weeks ago, and Chuck DeLon was saying one of the main things that you need to do as a DST person when you're deployed is to make sure that the job director is able to participate in the sync calls with Brad, and that they can speak on the call, and that they can be heard, and that they're not going to cause an echo. So you need to know this so that you can talk the job director and possibly other volunteers on the job to talk them through it and make sure that they're set up to participate in those meetings.
A good resource that will go a long way towards testing your setup and how it sounds, if you're in Teams and go up and click on your little avatar up in the corner and go into Settings, under Devices, you have the ability, they do have a test server that you can access.
Okay.
And if you click on the test call button, it will log you into a call basically between the test server and yourself, and what it does is you speak a couple sentences, it records it, and then plays it back to you, and then it also allows you to see what your video looks like.
That's cool. I didn't know that, Eric. I had been telling people to start a meeting with themselves and record it and then go back and listen, but your method is much faster. So thank you. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, most all of the Zoom and Teams and oh, I don't know, what's that other hokey dokey third party one? I can't remember. It's
I don't know. I used to do that on Skype, but Skype's going away, so we can't
Webex.
use it anymore.
Webex,
yeah.
All of them have
Oh my
some
God,
sort.
Webex is the worst.
All of them have some sort of test feature where you can test your audio and video.
Yep. Actually, Webex, I wouldn't say Webex is the worst. The big difference is that Webex is not a browser-based program. And so it handles the microphone differently than browser-based software like Teams and Zoom.
I'm just speaking from every Webex I've been on. I've had so much feedback and such a headache at the end of the meeting.
Well, that can be. I mean, if people's mic isn't good or they're not, they're too close to the mic, that can happen. But the problems are different on there because it's not browser-based.
It definitely doesn't run as smooth as a Teams meeting, for sure. In my experience.
All right, so we should think about wrapping up here unless anybody's got questions. I'm not seeing any hands up. We do have it recorded, of course, so let's see.
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
As long as we're in tips and tricks, one of the quickest things to do if you have an external microphone or you're configured with two different devices feeding audio is to separate them with a greater distance before you start fiddling around with gains and such. That's all. Parker out.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, I saw somebody had made a comment that they couldn't raise their hand, and that is true. If you're joining as a guest, you probably will not see the hand raising option. So if you want to ask a question, you can type it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask, that's fine too. Otherwise, thank you all for coming, everybody. And thank you so much to Bob and Dan and Eric for helping us demonstrate, and to Nigel for sharing your audio expertise with us as well. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we'll get ready to shut down here.